Every American knows this mansion. Its walls have seen power, ambition, and secrets no visitor has ever whispered aloud. But behind the grand columns, something darker lingers. We'll explain everything in this video step by step. Don't skip it. The White House was born from smoke and silence, a monument rising from a city that had yet to claim its own name. In 1792, the land was not a stage for grandeur but a swampy stretch of marsh, dotted with mosquitoes and the low hum of uncertainty. The air was thick with possibility and peril, a place where vision met the labor of those who would never hear their names spoken aloud. Architects sketched visions of marble and symmetry, while enslaved craftsmen shaped stone and timber, their hands precise, their voices unheard, their sweat the true foundation of the nation's most famous mansion. Each brick laid was a compromise between ambition and morality, a silent testament to the cost of beauty. From the first foundations, the mansion carried tension in its bones. The river's wind whispered through skeletal scaffolding as carpenters struggled against rain-soaked timbers, and the distant cries of workers echoed like a chorus of doubt. Wealth and power were already staking their claim in the shadows. George Washington walked the site, surveying the skeletal vision, yet he would never reside there. His gaze was distant, measured, as if he could see both the promise and the peril. When John Adams moved in years later, the walls would not only contain him but centuries of expectation, ambition, and quiet despair. The cost of such a dream was invisible yet omnipresent. Money flowed from pockets that could afford vision, but not always conscience. The mansion demanded obsession, architects refining proportions led into candlelit nights, masons perfecting each carved detail until the stone shone like the world's own vanity. But obsession is never without sacrifice. Lives bent beneath the weight of precision, the relentless pursuit of elegance, and the looming knowledge that failure would be remembered as much as triumph. Amid the marble and timber, the soft echo of hidden voices grew louder, as if the mansion itself absorbed their fatigue and whispered it back in the hush of its future halls. Even as the walls climbed skyward, the tension between appearance and reality deepened. The White House was designed to awe, to declare a new nation's dignity and permanence. Its columns, its grand staircases, its neoclassical symmetry promised stability. But beneath the surface, the swamp remained, the land still soft and yielding. Reminder that grandeur must always be fought for, measured against resistance. Workers fell ill from damp conditions, their lungs filled with dust and despair. A foreman scolded in haste, a mason wept quietly at night, and still the vision pressed on, indifferent to human suffering. Each triumph of symmetry was also a triumph of endurance, and every elegant curve carried a hidden story of exhaustion and quiet desperation. There was a rhythm to the construction, a pulse that mirrored the heartbeat of ambition itself. Early mornings brought fog and uncertainty. Nights brought candlelight flickering against stone and shadow. The mansion grew silently, deliberately, as if it were alive and breathing in time with the city's slow awakening. Yet life behind the frames of scaffolding was heavy with human cost. Enslaved laborers moved with silent precision, their eyes downcast, their sweat unrecorded. European artisans took pride in technique, unaware that their mastery existed only because others had labored in obscurity. The tension between beauty and sacrifice permeated every room even before it had walls, as if the mansion had already memorized the quiet price of its existence. Ambition clung to the air like smoke, carrying with it both excitement and dread. The first architects argued over proportions, their voices rising and falling like a symphony of ego. Washington's appointed supervisors moved through the site with measured authority, balancing vision against practicality, promise against ruin. Storms would sweep across the unfinished structure, hammering beams and sending plans scattering into the mud. And yet, the mansion rose, indifferent to the chaos around it, a monument of stubborn will against nature and circumstance. Its future splendor was imagined as an inevitability, even though the present was fragile, soaked with uncertainty, and heavy with the weight of human sacrifice. Every inch of progress drew attention, scrutiny, and silent judgment. Observers whispered that the mansion was too ambitious, that the city could not yet sustain such grandeur, that the laborers were overtaxed, that the elegance being carved into stone might be wasted on vanity. Yet ambition has a voice that drowns doubt. Brick by brick, column by column, the mansion grew into a symbol before it had inhabitants, a testament not only to design but to obsession itself. The air was taut with expectation, the land itself seemed to hold its breath, and when storms or missteps threatened the fragile dream, those who labored in silence pressed on, driven by necessity, pride, or fear of leaving a mark, unfinished. Inside the emerging walls, tension was already manifest in the spaces where light would fall. Grand windows framed the sky, yet cast shadows that seemed too deep for their elegance. Staircases spiraled with promise, yet whispered of missteps and falls. Every beam held more than wood. It held expectation, history, and the weight of eyes yet to see. The mansion existed in a delicate balance between triumph and catastrophe, and those who built it felt the constant hum of unease. Each day brought the satisfaction of creation and the terror of impermanence. And even as beauty emerged, the undercurrent of human cost could not be hidden. By the time the structure stood complete, it was already more than a house. It was a narrative written in stone, timber, and sweat. The smoke of its origin had long cleared, but its silence remained. The voices of the unseen, the overlooked, and the forgotten echoed faintly in the symmetry of its halls. When John Adams stepped across the threshold, the mansion was ready to house presidents, dignitaries, and history itself. Yet it carried in its walls the quiet tension of its birth, ambition married to sacrifice, elegance born of struggle, beauty shadowed by sorrow. The White House was alive with promise and yet haunted by memory, an enduring paradox of America's dreams and the human cost that built them. Even now, centuries later, the mansion whispers of that first ambition. The columns seem taller, the windows more luminous because they were forged in tension and obsession. Marble floors reflect light and shadow alike, tracing patterns that hint at unseen hands and hidden stories. The mansion stands as a testament to a nation's desire for permanence, yet beneath its polished exterior, the past lingers. Every brick and beam remembers the smoke and the silence, the toil and the quiet despair that brought it into being. To enter is to witness both grandeur and human cost intertwined, a silent reminder that beauty, power, and history are never without their shadows. The White House was not built by ghosts, yet ghosts seem to linger in every beam, every carved stone, every polished floor. The hands that built it were many, skilled artisans, laborers, enslaved men and women whose names would never grace plaques or history books, and architects whose visions reached higher than the scaffolding could bear. These hands moved in silence, shaping the nation's future without ever stepping into its light. Their labor was precise, painstaking, often brutal, and the mansion itself became a record of both excellence and invisible suffering. Each chisel strike, each mortar stroke, held ambition and fear, pride and exhaustion, as if the walls themselves absorbed the rhythm of their toil. Workers arrived before sunrise, the fog clinging to their clothing, biting at their skin, each breath a reminder of vulnerability. Hammers echoed against timber and stone like a heartbeat too loud to ignore. Sweat traced rivulets down their faces, and yet the mansion demanded perfection. A crooked line, a splintered plank, a poorly measured stone, and the entire design trembled. Architects paced along scaffolds, eyes narrowed, visions tangled with impatience. Their instructions were meticulous, often merciless, and each correction carried the weight of expectation and fear. Some obeyed without question, others faltered under the pressure, but the mansion pressed on, indifferent to human fragility, shaping its builders as much as they shaped it. The tension was constant, silent yet suffocating. Enslaved laborers carried timber across mud-slicked grounds, their movements disciplined and invisible, their dignity ignored, their hands raw and scarred. They whispered only in shadows, sharing brief moments of humanity beneath the gaze of overseers who measured worth by productivity and obedience. Every stone they laid was a paradox, a gift to the future, a theft from their present. The mansion demanded sacrifice, yet offered no reward. As the structure grew, so too did the quiet despair of those who built it, leaving a residue of tension that still lingers, invisible yet palpable, in the echoing corridors today. European artisans brought refinement, carving intricate moldings and precise columns, their hands guided by education and ego, by the desire to leave a mark that would outlast their mortal lives. Yet their pride was always shadowed by those whose labor they relied upon. Each flourish of marble or wood concealed another story of endurance, of silent suffering. The mansion became a tapestry of contradiction, beauty wrought from struggle, elegance built atop hardship, symmetry emerging from chaos. The more perfect the design, the heavier the hidden cost, and every ornate curve hid 1,000 untold sacrifices. Even in the early days, tension rippled between those who planned and those who executed. Architects argued over proportions, over aesthetics, over which visions would triumph. Foremen relayed instructions with clipped precision, sometimes cruel in tone, the weight of authority pressing down on shoulders already bowed by exhaustion. Workers adapted quickly or risked reprimand. Mistakes were met with sharp words, sometimes worse. In the hush of morning, as fog lifted from the grounds, one could almost hear the mansion's heartbeat. Pulse born from labor, from obsession, from the invisible friction of ambition against human fragility. The human cost was never merely physical. Lives were measured in hours lost to precise repetition, in the quiet despair of unacknowledged genius, in the small griefs that accumulated behind closed eyes. Families watched sons and daughters vanish into long days of construction, knowing that their names would never be carved in stone. Men fell ill, their bodies weakening beneath the relentless pace, while women carried burdens both seen and unseen, balancing survival with the weight of labor that history would never record. Every inch of progress was a triumph, yes, but it was also a ledger of invisible pain. The mansion was grand, but the cost was eternal. Obsession threaded through every detail. The architect's sketches, refined by candlelight, became blueprints of devotion and mania. Mistakes were never tolerated. Every corner, every angle demanded perfection. And yet, the hands that created these visions were human, fragile, fleeting, fallible. The tension between human limitation and architectural ambition was palpable, almost audible in the echoes of the unfinished halls. Workers labored under this silent pressure, their movements precise but weary, their faces lined with concentration and exhaustion. The mansion became a theater of expectation, each participant playing a role scripted by others. None of it recorded in the history that would later praise the building alone. There were moments of small intimacy amid the labor, tiny flickers of shared humanity, a quiet conversation between masons at dawn, the soft murmur of a craftsman singing while chiseling marble, a shared glance between enslaved workers carrying timber too heavy for comfort. These moments passed quickly, often unnoticed, yet they were threads of life woven into the mansion's fabric. They were breaths of resistance against the totalizing ambition of the project, reminders that every monument has a human heart beneath its stone exterior. The mansion's emergence was both triumphant and tragic. Walls rose, floors were laid, windows framed the sky, yet the silence of those who built it was deafening. Their labor, though indispensable, faded into obscurity, leaving only the grandeur to tell the story. Shadows of their effort remain, faint but insistent, visible only to those who look closely. Slight misalignment here, a subtle imperfection there, a whisper of struggle frozen in time. The mansion became a mirror of ambition itself, magnificent, precise, awe-inspiring, yet deeply indebted to hands that vanished from history, leaving only their marks behind. Even as the first occupants arrived, stepping over thresholds polished by countless invisible hands, the mansion's tension persisted. The elegance they admired was inseparable from the hidden toil it took to exist. The first dinners, the first receptions, the first decisions made within the walls were layered atop centuries of labor, sacrifice, and quiet endurance. Visitors gazed upon marble and symmetry, oblivious to the unseen stories etched into the foundation. The mansion was alive with contradictions, celebrated yet mournful, powerful yet fragile, elegant yet built upon invisible suffering. Time has softened the edges of memory, but the White House still carries the echo of those vanished voices. The hands that built it, though forgotten by name, left imprints that are palpable to anyone who steps carefully across the polished floors. The rhythm of labor, the silent tension, the obsession and devotion are woven into its very essence. To inhabit the space is to feel both wonder and sorrow, to recognize that beauty is never without cost, that grandeur demands sacrifice, and that every polished surface holds a story no plaque can contain. The mansion endures not only as a symbol of power, but as a testament to those who made it possible. Its elegance and authority are inseparable from human obsession and labor, from hidden costs and quiet despair. And even centuries later, one can sense the pulse beneath the marble, the subtle hum of life that built and vanished, the tension that gave shape to ambition, the quiet, invisible hand that made this house a monument of both grandeur and human endurance. The White House is more than stone and timber. It is a landscape of obsession, a choreography of symmetry and shadow. Marble floors gleam with the echo of ambition, polished until they reflect not just light, but the invisible weight of history. The walls rise with deliberation, each curve and cornice exacting a price in time, sweat, and patience. The architects dreamed aloud of neoclassical perfection, their sketches filled with ideal proportions, yet even as they designed, uncertainty gnawed at the edges. Would the vision withstand the weather, the labor, the human frailty that inevitably accompanied creation? The mansion demanded more than skill. It demanded sacrifice, a quiet surrender of those who shaped it and those who would inhabit it. Grand halls stretch in precise symmetry, yet they whisper of imperfection hidden beneath elegance. No visitor notices the subtle irregularity of a column, the slight variance in a carved arch, yet those who built it knew. Each deviation was a secret compromise between ambition and reality, between vision and human limitation. Marble was quarried, shaped, transported, and set by hands often blistered, worn, and unseen. Each block carries a silent testament to labor endured and creativity constrained. The mansion's perfection is therefore paradoxical, flawless to the eye, flawed in its invisible history, alive with the tension between human aspiration and human cost. Light enters through towering windows, cutting across the halls in narrow beams that illuminate gold leaf and crystal chandeliers. Yet these beams also cast shadow, deep and deliberate, revealing spaces unseen and almost forgotten. Behind these walls, hidden doors lead to passages once used by steps, secret staircases winding like veins through the mansion's body. Few visitors know their existence, fewer still have walked them. They are remnants of necessity, shortcuts in a palace built for grandeur, yet operating as a home, a workplace, a seat of power. These hidden pathways hold stories of discretion and urgency, of conversations hushed, and tasks performed out of sight, and they carry the tension of a life that exists parallel to the public spectacle. The architecture itself seems to breathe, responding to the weight of history and the ambition of those who shaped it. Ceilings curve with purpose, guiding eyes upward toward frescoes and gilded ornaments, while the walls hold both beauty and the memory of exhaustion. Carvers traced patterns into stone and plaster, working long hours with callous hands and sharp tools, aware that any misstep would be both visible and permanent. The mansion demanded obsession, and in return, it offered nothing but recognition for the result, never for the labor. Marble floors gleam, columns ascend, chandeliers sparkle, yet the human pulse that gave them life remains mostly invisible, like a heartbeat beneath layers of grandeur. The East Room, the Oval Office, the grand staircase all are exercises in controlled drama. Their proportions are designed to awe, their symmetry calculated to impress. But within these spaces, human tension is etched invisibly. Servants carried trays across slippery marble. Staff navigated tight corners with urgency. Architects paced in quiet frustration over the impossibility of perfection. Each space became a stage not only for politics, but for the quiet endurance of those who kept it alive, their contributions hidden behind doors that only open when necessity commands. The mansion's elegance is therefore inseparable from the invisible orchestration of countless unseen lives, each step forward a negotiation between artistry and labor, beauty and burden. Even the furniture, though ornate and carefully placed, carries a story of obsession. Chairs and desks were chosen with precision, often imported from distant lands, requiring weeks or months of meticulous transport and handling. Each piece demanded attention, installation, and care, and behind its polish lay hours of human effort. Craftsmen adjusted joints, polished surfaces, and fitted upholstery to the exacting standards of those who imagined the mansion as perfect. Their toil was constant, their names lost, yet their touch persists. Every surface reflects their discipline, every curve a monument to human endurance, and every shadow hints at the countless hours devoted to achieving something that was always just out of reach. The mansion's hidden doors are metaphors as much as they are physical passages. They lead to pantries, closets, and stairways, but also to secrecy. Messages were delivered without interruption, plans moved without observation of staff and occupants intertwined in routines invisible to the public eye. These doors speak to a duality within the mansion, public splendor versus private necessity, elegance versus labor, appearance versus reality. Walking past them today, one can almost hear footsteps that have long vanished, feel the weight of conversation that shaped decisions, sense the rhythm of lives that unfolded in parallel with ceremonial grandeur. As the mansion grew, tension between form and function intensified. Architects debated ceiling heights, corridor widths, and the placement of doors. Artisans struggled to reconcile design with materials that were imperfect, heavy, or unwieldy. Enslaved laborers and paid craftsmen alike felt the strain of deadlines imposed by ambition and politics. Each triumph of design came at the cost of exhaustion, patience, and sometimes health. Marble steps rose, walls were plastered, moldings set. Yet beneath every surface lies a history of compromise, struggle, and silent persistence. A tension never fully resolved but permanently embedded in the mansion's structure. The interplay of light and shadow continues to reveal tension centuries later. Sunlight slices across floors, catching dust motes and highlighting intricate patterns carved by hands long gone. Shadows fall over hidden corners, recalling the discreet paths staff once navigated, the rooms that served function rather than spectacle, the passages that allowed the mansion to operate unseen. There's a rhythm to the space, a subtle pulse that communicates both its beauty and its labor. The mansion is a living paradox, celebrated for elegance, yet inseparable from the hidden human toil that produced it, alive with the quiet echoes of hands, voices, and lives that vanished behind its perfection. Every visitor experiences only the surface, yet the mansion itself seems to carry memory. The sweep of a chandelier, the curve of a staircase, the gleam of a marble floor all hint at the intensity required to create them. Behind these surfaces lie the quiet stories of human obsession, endurance, and sacrifice, preserved in ways too subtle for history books to capture. To walk these halls is to sense the tension that birthed them, to feel the invisible hands that guided every detail, to recognize that every public triumph exists because of countless private struggles, many of which remain hidden, even as the mansion dazzles the world. The mansion is therefore a testament not only to architectural genius, but to the invisible tension between desire and effort, between vision and labor. Marble floors, gilded walls, crystal chandeliers, they impress, they awe, they embody ambition, but they are inseparable from the human endeavor that produced them. Behind each corner, beyond each hidden door, lie echoes of hands that shaped, voices that guided, bodies that labored in silence. The mansion's beauty and mystery are inseparable from the quiet obsession, hidden cost, and enduring tension that gave it form, a tension that continues to resonate, to haunt, to compel those who enter to look closer, to wonder, to feel the pulse of history beneath. The perfection the night was heavy with smoke before anyone could see the flames. In August of 1814, the city of Washington trembled under the threat of invasion, but no one expected the grandeur of the nation's symbol to be consumed so completely. The White House, pristine and proud, a monument of ambition and human effort, faced a danger its walls had never known. A quiet tension had always lingered beneath its symmetry, a weight of labor and obsession. But now that tension erupted into chaos. Flames licked the columns, hungrily consuming the elegance that had taken decades to perfect. The wind carried embers like whispers, and the mansion, so long a testament to vision and human endurance, cried out in fire. Inside, the panic was immediate, yet measured by necessity. Those who had cared for the mansion, the servants, the few trusted staff, moved with urgency, gathering papers, portraits, and artifacts that could be saved. The heat was unbearable, yet their movements were deliberate. Each step was a negotiation with mortality, a compromise between instinct and responsibility. They carried history in their arms, yet even the heaviest treasures could not match the destruction outside. The flames devoured floors and ceilings, walls and memories, reducing human effort, ambition, and obsession to smoke and ash. Each crackling beam was a reminder that beauty, no matter how meticulously constructed, is never immune to the forces of the world. The fire was not merely a physical threat. It was a psychological assault. Those who watched felt the weight of history unraveling in real time. Marble, polished and gleaming, began to blacken. Ornate moldings, carved with patient hands, crumbled under heat. The chandeliers, imported and exquisite, melted, dripping gold and crystal into ruin. Every object, every surface, every carefully orchestrated detail became a victim of circumstance. And yet, amid the horror, human resilience was visible in the smallest actions: a portrait rescued from smoke, a ledger saved from fire, a whispered command that preserved the last threads of continuity. The mansion's grandeur could not shield it from destruction, but it revealed the courage, the quick thinking, and the quiet determination of those who lived in its shadow. The city around the mansion was a mirror of chaos. British troops moved with precision and purpose, yet there was a strange poetry in their destruction. Smoke curled over rooftops, a black ribbon against the moonlight. Soldiers carried torches that illuminated the deliberate devastation, while distant. Cries and alarms punctuated the night like percussion in a tragic symphony. The White House, so long a symbol of order, discipline, and control, ambition, now stood exposed, vulnerable, and terrifyingly human. Every brick that fell was a testament not only to fire, but to the fragility of human endeavor, a reminder that the most perfect creations can be undone in moments by forces beyond planning, beyond labor, beyond ambition. Inside the walls, human emotion collided with history. Staff and occupants experienced fear, sorrow, and disbelief simultaneously. The mansion had been a place of daily toil, of obsessive care, of meticulous maintenance, and now that labor was threatened with erasure, servants carried belongings through smoke-filled corridors, their hands blistered, their lungs stinging, their hearts heavy. The mansion's elegance was suddenly irrelevant against the immediacy of survival, yet the care with which they protected its treasures reflected the depth of their bond to a space that demanded everything from them and gave so little in return. Each saved item was a triumph against inevitability, a quiet rebellion against the erasure of human effort. The fire also consumed more than objects. It consumed the symbolic power of the nation. Decisions made in the mansion's walls, documents drafted, conversations held in hushed tone awe became vulnerable to loss. The weight of this destruction extended beyond stone and timber to the very psyche of a fledgling country. Citizens feared the permanence of ruin, yet within the chaos, leaders began to consider reconstruction, restoration, and the resilience that must follow tragedy. The mansion, even in flame, was teaching a lesson in endurance, in human obsession, In the costs of ambition, flames may consume walls, but they cannot erase the memory of labor, the echo of decisions, the imprint of hands that once made the impossible tangible. The fire altered the mansion physically, but it also transformed it spiritually. The walls blackened, floors warped, ceilings sagged under heat. Yet the structure's bones, the skeleton shaped by obsession and human tension, remained. There is a paradox in fire. Destruction and revelation often arrive together. Hidden elements were exposed. Flaws previously unnoticed became apparent. The mansion's character shifted in ways only catastrophe could achieve. Builders, architects, and staff who once toiled in silence were suddenly present in memory, their labor illuminated against ruin. The mansion's perfection had been tested, and it was found both vulnerable and resilient, human and enduring, a paradox mirrored in the very nation it symbolized. Even as the flames consumed, a strange elegance persisted. Smoke curling around pillars resembled ribbons of ink. Shadows danced across chalk walls, and the fire's light threw fragments of gold and crystal into stark relief. In the horror, there was beauty, and in the destruction, there was revelation. The mansion demanded attention, now not for its perfection, but for its endurance. Observers, both human and historical, could see the weight of ambition, the cost of obsession, the quiet tension that had always existed behind polished surfaces. Flames revealed the hidden emotional geography of the mansion: fear, pride, grief, courage, and a haunting sense of loss. The aftermath revealed human resolve as clearly as the fire revealed vulnerability. As dawn broke over Washington, the mansion's bones remained, scarred yet standing. Architects, craftsmen, and leaders surveyed the damage, their eyes tracing lines of ruin that once marked triumph. Plans for restoration began immediately. Negotiations over materials and design, over how to balance memory with ambition, survival with perfection. The fire had altered the mansion, yet it had also clarified its essence. Elegance is inseparable from human endeavor, grandeur is inseparable from labor, and beauty is inseparable from risk. Every scar became a symbol, every charred beam a testament to the intersection of obsession, vulnerability, and human endurance. The White House had been devoured, yet it was not defeated. Reconstruction would take years, resources, and relentless attention to detail. Laborers returned, artisans carved once more, and the mansion gradually reclaimed its form. But the fire left a permanent lesson embedded in the walls. Obsession, ambition, and human tension can create extraordinary beauty, but they cannot render it invincible. The mansion's elegance, power, and symbolism were always contingent upon human care and courage, upon labor and vigilance, upon the quiet dedication of those who worked behind the scenes. Even in destruction, the mansion spoke of these truths, revealing that the cost of grandeur is never fully visible, and the human stories behind it are inseparable from its enduring presence. Time has softened the memory of flames, yet they remain in the mansion's consciousness, in the rhythm of corridors, in the shadows of ceilings, in the polish of floors that now bear the weight of centuries. The fire transformed the mansion into something both more vulnerable and more profound, a living monument to human endurance, to obsession, to ambition tested against chaos. Visitors may only see marble, columns, and symmetry, but the mansion remembers the smoke, the heat, the crackling of beams, the courage of invisible hands that preserved it, and the enduring tension between human aspiration and the inevitability of loss. The White House is alive with echoes, not just the echoes of footsteps on marble, or the quiet creak of aged doors, but the echo of lives lived in obsession, ambition, and secrecy. It is a place where power breathes in every room, where decisions are weighed in the shadows, and where every polished surface conceals a human story. Ghosts linger here, not always literal, but present in the tension between appearances and truth, in the corridors where whispered conversations shaped a nation, and in the spaces where ambition collided with love, fear, and hidden longing. Even in the earliest years, the mansion held secrets. Servants and staff moved through invisible networks of corridors, carrying messages that shaped policy and protected reputation. Their hands touched surfaces unseen. Their eyes watched from shadows. Their knowledge was power hidden beneath the grandeur of statecraft. They knew the first families intimately, understood their habits, their weaknesses, their small joys and profound sorrows. Each quiet act of service or discretion was a thread in the mansion's unseen tapestry, a balance of loyalty and survival, a negotiation between human need and the relentless public gaze. The presidents themselves became part of the mansion's spectral presence. Lincoln walked these halls carrying grief that no corridor could release. FDR navigated them with the weight of a world at war, each step a negotiation with both history and his own body's limitations. Their human vulnerabilities were contained within walls designed for perfection, yet the mansion reflected and amplified them. Marble, wood, and gold do not hide despair, they frame it. Each room, each chamber, carries the memory of sleepless nights, anxious conversation, and the relentless tension between public expectation and private burden. Even grandeur could not obscure fear, loneliness, or quiet obsession. First families carried their own secrets into the mansion. Scandals, personal tragedies, and whispered indiscretions unfolded behind closed doors. The public saw gala dinners, portraits, and ceremonies. Yet behind the polished veneer, human frailty moved invisibly. A wife pacing in a hidden corner, listening for footsteps, weighed every word she would utter at a public gathering. Children navigated halls in silence, learning early that power is inseparable from performance, that love and duty often clash in invisible ways. The mansion was a stage, yes, but also a prison and a sanctuary, depending on which perspective one chose. Staff and servants were the invisible witnesses to all of this. They carried water, letters, and meals, yet they also carried knowledge of arguments never recorded, of secret alliances, of tensions that could topple careers or marriages. They understood the rhythm of the mansion as intimately as the presidents themselves, moved with precision and discretion, guided by experience, intuition, and sometimes fear. Their loyalty was both a strength and a burden, their lives intertwined with the mansion's own pulse, yet their names vanished like footprints in marble dust, leaving only subtle traces in the fabric of memory. Rumors and whispered stories proliferate in quiet spaces. Who met whom behind closed doors? Which conversations were overheard in stairwells or pantries? Which decisions were influenced by a glance, a whispered suggestion, a small act of persuasion by someone whose face would never appear in history books? The mansion preserved all of it. Its walls absorbed voices, its floors record footsteps, and its hidden corridors guard secrets with unwavering loyalty. Those who enter today may feel only elegance and symmetry, but beneath that perfection lies web of human obsession, discretion, and tension that shaped more than policy, it shaped lives. Even architecture itself participates in the spectral presence. Hidden doors, narrow staircases, and concealed passages were not merely functional. They were conduits for secrecy. Messages moved unseen. Individuals traveled without observation, and crucial decisions were sometimes made in shadow rather than light. The mansion's design became a partner in discretion, amplifying tension by providing both access and concealment. Every hidden corner was a theater of possibility, every narrow corridor a stage for human ambition and quiet courage. And in those spaces, the invisible hand of history continues to press upon the present, reminding all who enter that elegance often masks something far more complicated. The tension between public spectacle and private life intensified over decades. Balls and ceremonies celebrated the nation's progress, yet in the quiet hour, the mansion was a repository of grief, desire, and unspoken truths. Staff, presidents, and families navigated the same rooms but never fully intersected. Lives overlapped in fleeting moments, a glance in a mirror, a whisper through a hidden door, a hurried step past a grand staircase. Each interaction carried weight, shaping the mansion's human drama, even as marble floors and gilded ceilings suggested permanence and stability. The mansion witnessed triumphs and failures, moments of joy and despair, all with a judgment, preserving the emotional residue of power for those attuned to it. Even tragedy leaves its mark in silence. Death, illness, and heartbreak moved through the White House as inevitably as ceremonial protocol. Lincoln's mourning, personal losses of family members, and crises of leadership, all unfolded within walls that bore witness but offered no consolation. The mansion's elegance framed grief. Its symmetry amplified tension, and its very design transformed human emotion into something both visible and invisible, public and private. Those who labored in its shadow, servants, aides, staff, were the steady pulse beneath emotional storm, their quiet endurance a hidden force sustaining the structure and the lives contained within it. Curiosity lingers because the mansion is more than architecture. It is an archive of human emotion. Each room holds multiple histories, the official, recorded version and the hidden, human version. Secret meetings, fleeting romances, whispered advice, and clandestine observations created an invisible layer, a shadow world parallel to the one displayed for tourists and dignitaries. The mansion's elegance is inseparable from these human stories, which are layered, interwoven, and sometimes contradictory. Walking its halls is to witness the coexistence of power and vulnerability, of obsession and restraint, of visibility and concealment. Even today, the ghosts persist. Not all are spirits in the supernatural sense, but they are present in the tension of the rooms, in the shadowed corners, in the subtle creaks and sighs of floors and doors that have known too much. The elegance of the White House is inseparable from these invisible occupants, lives lived in anxiety, anticipation, hope, and fear. They are the hidden cost of beauty, the human labor beneath grandeur, the emotional resonance that transforms architecture into something alive. Visitors see symmetry and formality, yet the mansion vibrates with the memory of lives intertwined, of obsession and discretion, of secrets held in marble, wood, and gold. Power itself becomes palpable as one moves through the mansion. Decisions made in hushed tones, scandals contained through careful maneuvering, moments of human vulnerability preserved by discretion, all are present in the very air. Marble floors reflect more than light. They reflect tension, attention, and quiet sacrifice. Walls hold more than portraits. They hold memory, labor, and secrecy. The hidden emotional geography of the White House is a labyrinth, guiding, influencing, and shaping human behavior for centuries. Its beauty is inseparable from the labor and secrecy that produced it, its power inseparable from the ghost in its halls, and its story incomplete without acknowledging the invisible lives that have given its substance, resonance, and the haunting tension that continues to draw the curious and the observant. Closer beneath the gleaming marble floors of the White House, a hidden world breathes in silence. The polished surfaces above concealed corridors, stairwells, and chambers that few have ever walked, pathways that carry the weight of secrets and human intention. These passages were designed not merely for function, but for discretion, a subterranean network that moves with quiet urgency beneath the public spectacle of power. Each hidden step, each shadowed corner, preserves a tension that has existed since the mansion's earliest days, a tension between visibility and concealment, between ambition and vulnerability, between beauty and the human cost of maintaining it. The hidden corridors are narrow, deliberate, sometimes almost suffocating, built to accommodate those who serve, those who observe, those who intervene without notice. Staff move through them with careful precision, delivering messages, monitoring guests, and maintaining order, their footsteps echoing softly against stone and timber. These paths held more than practicality. They held human knowledge. The unseen observers understood the rhythms of the mansion, knew which doors led to power and which to ruin, and carried information that could influence decisions, shape outcomes, or protect lives. Every journey through these hidden spaces was a negotiation, a delicate balance between discretion and action, between service and survival. The mansion above these corridors was a theater of grandeur, its elegance intentionally designed to impress. But beneath the floors, another story unfolded. Servants whispered behind closed doors, notes were passed in shadows, and clandestine plans were executed in silence. There was a human pulse here, measured not in decoration or display, but in timing, trust, and knowledge. One misstep could be disastrous. A moment of distraction could reveal secrets meant to remain hidden. The polished floors above were deceiving in their perfection, hiding the complexity of lives that moved tirelessly beneath them, shaping history one quiet act at a time. Some of the mansion's secrets were architectural. Hidden staircases spiraled into darkness, offering shortcuts or escape. Concealed doors led to storage rooms, wine cellars, and secure chambers. Every feature was functional yet symbolic, a reminder that even the most exquisite spaces relied on invisible networks of labor, observation, and control. These passages allowed the mansion to operate seamlessly, to maintain the illusion of effortless elegance, while beneath the surface, tension and labor persisted. Craftsmen who carved ornate moldings, fitted marble tiles, and installed polished floors were aware that what they created would be admired by many, yet the human work behind it, the precision, the patience, the repeated adjustments was largely invisible, like the corridors themselves. The hidden spaces were also repositories of vulnerability. In emergencies, they became shelters. In times of scandal, they offered concealment. Letters, artifacts, and records were often moved or stored in these chambers, preserved from prying eyes or catastrophe. There was a constant vigilance, a quiet obsession with protection and order. Staff operated with near military precision, aware that failure could compromise not just a task, but the very security of the mansion and its occupants. Each footstep through these halls carried weight, each action measured against consequence, each decision guided by a silent, ever-present tension between what was seen and what must remain unseen. The human dimension of these spaces is profound. Generations of staff, from chefs to valets to secretaries, have walked these corridors, their presence largely unnoticed yet essential to the mansion's function. They bore witness to intimate moments of grief and joy, to private fears and ambitions, to decisions that would shape nations. Some of these observers remained silent out of loyalty, some out of fear, some out of necessity. Their labor was constant, unacknowledged, and yet indispensable. The mansion's elegance, so visible above ground, depends upon these hidden lives and actions, a relationship of dependence. That mirrors the tension between human ambition and human cost that runs through every marble tile and gilded surface. Even small details carried weight in these hidden spaces. A hinge placed precisely, a panel fitted with care, a step aligned perfectly all required obsessive attention. A slight misalignment could ripple outward, causing inefficiency, revealing secrets, or disrupting the rhythm of daily life. Craftsmen, architects, and staff understood that perfection was never just aesthetic. It was functional, necessary, and often demanded at great personal cost. Fingers blistered, eyes strained, backs bent under the pressure of invisible labor. Yet the polished surfaces above suggested ease, grace, and control. Every hidden corridor became a testament to human endurance, a quiet stage where tension, effort, and discretion intersected. Time layered its own secrets beneath the floors. Renovations, restorations, and occasional crises revealed hidden passageways and chambers forgotten by history. Artifacts once stored in shadowed corners emerged centuries later, hinting at lives, intentions, and events otherwise lost. The mansion itself retains memory. It remembers the hands that touched its walls, the whispers carried through corridors, the decisions enacted in secret. The human pulse beneath the marble is persistent, invisible yet undeniable, a rhythm that continues to guide those who move within its confines, shaping behavior, expectation, and perception in subtle but profound ways. The tension between secrecy and exposure remained constant across generations. The mansion above could host grand events, welcoming dignitaries, press, and the public. Yet beneath the floors, the machinery of discretion continued unabated. Staff coordinated, corrected, observed, and mediated, maintaining order and control while remaining unseen. Each hidden act preserved the public image of effortless elegance while simultaneously demanding immense precision, dedication, and vigilance. The polished floors, gilded railings, and sweeping staircases above are only part of the story. The mansion's true complexity exists in the quiet, invisible movements below, a labyrinth of human endeavor and tension that keeps the house alive and functional. Curiosity naturally arises in these hidden spaces. How many decisions, crises, or moments of personal vulnerability passed unnoticed beneath the polished floors? How many lives intersected here in service to the mansion and the nation, yet left no trace in public record? These corridors are repositories not only of artifacts but of human experience, fear, loyalty, grief, triumph, and obsession. The mansion's elegance is inseparable from this invisible network, its function dependent upon labor and discretion that remain largely hidden, a reminder that beauty and power are always supported by unseen human tension and effort. Even today, the secrets beneath the floors continue to shape perception. The mansion's visible magnificence is inseparable from the invisible stories and pathways that allow it to operate. Footsteps echo softly in hidden passages, reminding those attuned to them that history is layered, human effort is ongoing, and elegance is never accidental. The White House remains alive, not only in its architecture, but in the labor, vigilance, and discretion preserved in its hidden corridors. Every polished floor above carries the weight of countless unseen acts of devotion, each step along these secret paths a testament to the human tension, obsession, and endurance that have sustained this house for centuries. The White House never sleeps. Its marble floors, polished and gleaming, seem still in daylight, but beneath the surface, beneath the public gaze, it hums with activity, with vigilance, with history in motion. The elegance above is only a mask for the rhythm of human endeavor that continues through hours uncounted. A symphony of footsteps, whispers, and quiet labor that sustains the mansion and the nation it represents. Even when visitors have gone, when the ceremonial lights are dimmed, the house remains alive, alert, attentive, as if conscious of its own significance and the countless lives it contains. In the quiet hours of night, staff move with precision through corridors both visible and hidden. Security personnel monitor, aides organize, maintenance crews attend to the unseen minutiae that preserve both comfort and function. Each action is deliberate, each movement guided by expectation and experience. The mansion is not merely a residence, it is a living organism of power, a network of human devotion and tension. Its pulse beats in the rhythm of those who walk its floors, each step carrying both weight and purpose. The house watches as much as it shelters, absorbing the quiet energy of those who serve it. Even the walls seem to breathe with the life contained within. Portraits of past leaders observe the present, their painted eyes capturing. More than likeness, they capture ambition, grief, obsession. The ceilings, high and ornate, bear witness to decisions that shape the world, and the shadows they cast amplify human tension. Each room has a history layered upon it, triumphs celebrated, crises navigated, private griefs endured. The house holds memory, absorbing both sound and emotion, a silent repository of the nation's human experience. The weight of all who have moved through it is tangible, yet invisible to casual observation, felt only by those attuned to its subtle rhythms. The mansion's pulse is relentless. Ceremonial events demand precision, diplomacy, and attention to detail, yet the machinery beneath them is hidden from view. Staff coordinate schedules, manage logistics, and anticipate contingencies, operating with near-perfect timing to maintain the illusion of effortless grandeur. Their labor is unceasing, their vigilance constant. Every guest arrival, every reception, every press briefing relies on human effort that is largely invisible, a choreography performed in silence beneath the polished floors. Even as the house exudes elegance, its true power lies in this continuous, unseen orchestration. The tension of the mansion is amplified by its duality, public display versus private reality. First families inhabit a space, simultaneously ceremonial and domestic, their lives under scrutiny even in rooms designed for refuge. Children grow up learning the weight of observation, understanding the fine balance between freedom and expectation. Lovers, friends, and confidants navigate the mansion's corridors carefully, aware that privacy is scarce, that whispers travel farther than they imagine. The house itself mediates these interactions, guiding, confining, and observing, its architecture both protective and revealing. Even in solitude, its presence is tangible, a quiet pressure shaping behavior,